What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to the second edition of All Elite Review here on Sunday, September the 6th, 2020. And we're going to be reviewing what was, without a doubt, a divisive pay-per-view last night in AEW All Out 2020. There were some things that happened last night that were pretty scary, to say the least. Some scary botches. There were also some good matches. And we're going to be getting into all that with this review. But before we get into all that, I've got a lot of things to get off my chest here. I thought about doing this review right after the show had ended, which was closing in around midnight or so. But I decided to sleep on it because, number one, I would have just been just raging out, I guess, against some people that were just mindless idiots, basically. But number two, I was pretty tired and exhausted, after doing some video editing and other stuff, that I'm doing since I have my vacation. Yay, I'm off work for the next week. Planned vacation, so I can do some stuff around my house. So that's fun. Also take a break from the grind, as it were. But I decided to sleep on it, get a shower this morning after I got back from the flea market. Kind of mull things over, I guess you could say. So while some of my points will be the same, it won't have the rage and the frustration that it would have had last night. I'll tell you that much. But a few things I want to get off my chest. First of all, and this is what I wanted to talk about on Dynamite for the Dynamite review earlier today. But I decided to save it for this one because I just wanted to get it all off my chest. I'm done supporting Joe Cronin. I'm serious. Because the quality of his reviews have just taken a dunk right into the fucking shitter. He's been wondering, why his viewership's been going down. And he keeps thinking that it's because, people aren't interested in wrestling. Well, then why is AEW still getting the same amount of viewership? And, with NXT on Tuesdays the last couple weeks, they've been getting even more viewership. This last week, the Go Home show got over 900,000 people. And for AEW, that's a lot of fucking people. You know what I mean? So people are obviously still interested in wrestling. And in that case, if that's the case, then why is JD from New York getting sometimes he's been getting upwards of between 12 to 1500 to between 1500 to 2000 people showing up for his reviews. And I think the reason why Joe Cronin doesn't get that kind of viewership anymore is because his shows fucking suck. The quality of his reviews have gone down. He likes to stray off topic. This past week, his review of the Go Home show was just all this was trash, and all this other shit, which, he's entitled to his opinion, but a lot of that stemmed from the fact that he didn't like the commentary, and he basically spent 2 hours bitching and moaning all review long about the commentary, and it's just I can understand if you're a bit nitpicky about the commentary, but you don't stay on that one frickin' topic the entire goddamn time. That's not what reviews are supposed to be. And on top of that, I think a lot of people are getting a little sick and tired of his homophobic insults, calling people F-A-G-G-O-T, and all this other crap. I think people are getting sick and tired of that. So I think the reason, here's the thing, Joe. I think the reason why your viewership has gone downward is because people are tired of your bullshit. Your reviews are garbage. And let's, I'm reminded of his review of last year's Full Gear pay-per-view, where he basically said that you know, other than the last 2 matches, the entire pay-per-view was atrocious. You know, and I just sat there like, what is this guy smoking? You know, he's painting everything with a broad brush, and he's going outside a lot of lines. Of course, Rebby Hardy is doing that too with her little statement that she made last night, but I'll get to that in a minute. But, I mean, the ignorance of that statement, and he said it, and he was, and this was not in the review itself per se, it was more a video where, you know, he was, you know, defending the Lights Out match, you know, which I agree, the Lights Out match was a killer, you know what I mean? But he says that the rest of the card was atrocious, which is like, you know, and when I look at some of the matches that were on the card before the 2 main events, you know, you had Young Bucks versus Proud and Powerful. That was a banger match. You're going to tell me that was an atrocious match? And then he said that the Triple Threat Tag Team title match, he said, that doesn't make any sense. These were the top 3 teams in the tournament. I mean, who else is going to go for the Tag Team Championship at that point? And that match was killer between SCU, the Lucha Brothers, and Private Party. I mean, those 3 tore it up. You're honestly going to tell me that that match was atrocious? Let's see, what else was on the card from that year? I mean, there's a couple others that I know that he's just nuts for saying so, but there were a couple others that were on this card. So let me check something here. Full Gear 2019. What were the matches? So, of course, John Moxley and Kenny Omega in the Lights Out match. Jericho and Cody in the AEW World Championship match, which was a banger. Riho against Demi Sakura. I mean, while that match was not the greatest, no, it still got the job done. The 3-way tag team title match, like I said. I mean, there were a couple of matches that, probably the only match that you could have said that shouldn't have been on here. I mean, Britt Baker versus B. Priestley, I mean, that was a long-form story as well. I mean, really the only match that probably shouldn't have been on this card was Shawn Spears against Joey Janela, because that didn't have enough time to kind of simmer, I guess you could say. But you're going to call SoCal Uncensored, Lucha Brothers, and Private Party an atrocious match. You're going to call Proud and Powerful against the Young Bucks an atrocious match, and for the life of me, you're honestly... Okay, come here for a second. Okay? You're honestly going to tell me that Pac versus Hangman Adam Page was an atrocious match? See what I'm getting at? And I listened to a statement like that from him, and I can't help but legitimately wonder if he's legitimately insane or not. Of course, this is the same guy who cut himself with a fucking Bowie knife on a live broadcast. So yeah, I think this guy is legitimately insane. Especially when you have, you know, hot bullshit takes like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And then JD from New York, you know, even though he probably makes the most sense out of anybody, you know, he did his review, and there were some things that I took exception with that. Because he was basically, you know, bitching about how this show started at 8 when it should be starting at 7 o'clock. It's like, what the fuck's the difference, really? I mean, was the show a bit too long? Yeah, probably. Was there too many matches on it? Yeah. I mean, there were a few matches that probably shouldn't have been on the 2020 edition of All Out. I mean, there were 11 total matches. with 2 pre-show matches. I mean, as far as the main card is concerned, you probably could have taken the tooth and nail match out. I know I said that it should have been on the pay-per-view itself, but then we kind of saw it, and it's like, yeah, it wasn't that good. But, I mean, you could have taken out the 8-man tag, you know. I mean, you could have taken that one out. I could have taken the tooth and nail match out. I mean, there's a couple matches that, you know, probably would have been better served on a episode of Dynamite. You know, you probably could have gone with just 1 pre-show match instead of 2. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. But I can understand him not wanting, you know, these shows to go like 4 hours. So that is one point. But, you know, the part where he said, "Oh, these shows need to be at 7 o'clock," you know, and he was just yelling into the camera. And it's just like, listen, I know I've yelled into my camera plenty of times before, on the fuel in particular, when NASCAR does some shit that that is just not right. But yelling into your camera over a start time, I mean, to me, that's just petty bullshit. And then on top of that, you know, he said, enough with the geeky, you know, high spots, you know, and all this other shit, you know. Basically, you know, he's basically laying it at Tony Khan's feet, you know, what happened to, in particular, Matt Hardy, which we're going to be talking about, who sustained probably the most serious bump of the night, when he and Sammy Guevara did a spear spot off of a high-rise, and was supposed to go through a couple of tables, but overshot, and he actually bonked his head off the concrete floor, which actually legitimately knocked him unconscious for about a minute. But it seems like he's just putting all the blame on Tony Khan, and if that's legitimately the case, then JD, you're one ignorant motherfucker, I'll tell you that much. And he probably won't like that. He can't really take criticism all that well, because he always says, if you don't like what I do, if you like to criticize me, blow me. No, fuck you. How about that? How about you do a self-fellatio yourself, if that's the case? But what he needs to realize is, this is not WWE. Okay, this is not a case of, you know, management just completely taking control of what a wrestler does, you know, and not listening to any ideas that they have. This is a company where the wrestlers, for the most part, have free reign over what they do, what storylines they come up with, the spots they come up with. I mean, Darby Allin's spot in the Battle Royal, which, you know, he wanted to be put into a body bag filled with thumbtacks and dumped over the top rope. I mean, you think management came up with that idea? No, that was probably all Darby Allin's idea. I mean, this whole thing between Hardy and Guevara, I mean, they probably came up with all the shit that they have come up with throughout this intense rivalry, which JD called a nothing rivalry, which, again, what the fuck are you smoking, dude? This has been one of the most talked about rivalries in AEW in recent weeks, and this was a highly anticipated Broken Rules match. And you're gonna call it a nothing rivalry. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, seriously. That's some dumb bullshit. You know, and then there was Rebby Hardy's little tweet that she sent out, where it basically said that, that concussions are nothing to laugh about, which I do agree with. But then the second half of this tweet was, everybody in that entire building should be goddamn ashamed of themselves. So here's my response to that. The first part of that I do agree with. Concussions are never anything to laugh about. You know, and there were some people that were laughing during Matt Seidel's little botch, in the Casino Battle Royal, which is like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You know what I mean? I mean, he could have been seriously injured off of that as well. You know, people are going to be laughing at him. And in fact, Shockmaster was trending on Twitter when that happened. After that happened. So, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But, you know, people were apparently laughing at him for that, which I think is fucking ridiculous and just absolutely sickening. And I agree in the fact that concussions are nothing to laugh at. You know, I mean, look what happened with the Chris Benoit situation. You know, he had sustained so many concussions that he had according to doctors, he had the brain of a 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. That's not a good thing. But then she ruins her own argument by saying that everybody in that building should be ashamed of themselves. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that everybody in that building, from the competitors to the fans to the referees to the guys at the commentary booth, I didn't know that they were responsible for what happened to Matt Hardy. You know, and like with Joe Cronin, you're brushing with some broad strokes and you're going outside the lines in a lot of places. I mean, if you want to be upset with management and how they kind of handled it, because they initially stopped the match, but they did restart it and went to the quick finish, probably because they had to do some conversing while that whole thing was going on, while they were checking Matt out. Damn it, I lost my train of thought. But I mean, from one standpoint, I can understand why she would be upset with, like, management. Because, you know, I don't think it was the right thing to do. I mean, should they have restarted the match? No. I mean, they could have just called it a no contest. I mean, yeah, the stipulation said there must be a winner. But, I mean, there's certain things that are more important. And obviously, Matt Hardy was the one who wanted it restarted. I mean, it was pretty clear that the people at AEW didn't want to, you know, put Matt Hardy in any more danger, considering that he didn't look right. You know what I mean? But Matt wanted the match to continue. He wanted to at least get it to a finish. You know, so that was Matt's decision. So, but I mean, I'm not going to completely defend AEW on this. I mean, they should have handled it better. You know, they should have protected Matt Hardy a little better. But I mean, Matt was the one who, I mean, and that's actually a point I'll get to in a minute. But I mean, for you to say that, you know, everybody should be ashamed, I mean, why? The other wrestlers, you know, were involved in that decision. I mean, if you want to be mad at management, that's one thing. But blaming pretty much everybody in the building for what happened to your husband, that's ignorant as fuck. I mean, this is one of the many reasons why you should read what you tweet before you hit send. Because that is painting with a big brush, and that's just going way outside the lines. I mean, you're basically blaming everybody. Based on that tweet, you're blaming everybody for what happened to your husband, and that's fucking stupid. But then again, Reby Hardy has been known to spout off on social media anyways. She's been known to have quite the temper. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes you need to try to keep your temper in check. Sometimes you just need to walk away and let things cool off before you say something stupid. And that tweet, the second half of it anyway, was fucking stupid. If you want to say that management should be ashamed of themselves, that's one thing. Because I do agree that management should have done a better job protecting your husband. But to say that everybody should have been ashamed of themselves, that's just ignorant. And also, there were people and entities like Wrestle Talk that were saying that AEW should be held for negligence, you know, based on what happened to Matt Hardy. And to those of you that are saying that, shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Okay? If this was a situation where AEW forced Matt Hardy back into that match against his will, then okay, that can be seen as negligence. But it was, from the looks of it, it was Matt who wanted the match restarted, and they wanted to go to the quick finish, which they did. And then after the match was over, they immediately rushed him to the hospital. So you can kiss my ass on that whole negligence bullshit. I mean, should AEW have done a better job? Like I said, AEW should have done a better job protecting Matt Hardy by saying, no, you should not go back into this match. You know, but Matt, I mean, being the consummate professional he is, he said, I don't want it to end that way. You know, and to Matt, I say this, you know, I realize that you're a professional wrestler and, you know, you don't want certain things to end the way they do, but, I mean, sometimes there are things that are more important than your job, and your physical and mental health is one of those. So, I mean, but I can understand the mentality of him wanting to finish the match, and certainly props to him for doing so, because he was legit. It looked like he was legit knocked out after taking that bump off the high rise. But it's just a shitty situation all around, and it's I mean, it's going to paint AEW in a negative light, unfortunately. Doesn't matter what I say. I mean, there was already people that, you know, like I said, like Wrestle Talk, that are saying this negligence bullshit, you know, which I think they're stepping over their bounds in that regard. But that's just my opinion. So I kind of wanted to get all that off my chest. It was a lot to it was a lot to talk about, but I kind of wanted to save it all for the All Out review, because this is going to probably be a long ass video anyways, with all the matches that we have to cover anyway. So that was my opening rant for this review. So let's go ahead and get into the review itself. Alright, let's get into this review proper with the buy-in. There were two matches on the buy-in. One was a singles match, one was a tag match. First one was Joey Janela against Serpentico with their respective tag team partners at ringside. Initially I'd call it Serpentico and Luther the Night Stalkers, which I thought made sense, but apparently they call their team Chaos Project, which, okay. But this is a pretty good match, a pretty good opening match. Great offense by both wrestlers. Janela hit a Death Eye Driver and a Blue Thunder Bomb, which looked really nice. Serpentico hit a nice super kick and a low flying DDT. Janela actually hit an Avalanche Fisherman Suplex, and then eventually hit his Dynamic Elbow Drop for the 3 count and the victory. I thought that was a pretty good opening match, so I gave it 3 stars out of 5. The second buy-in match was Private Party against the Beaver Boys. There were some good tag team moves by Private Party. Beaver Boys start focusing on Cassie's back after delivering a powerbomb lung blower combo. Quinn starts hitting some great high-flying moves. Of course, he flies effortlessly through the air, it seems like. Silver hits a nice Blue Thunder-esque bomb on Quinn for a 2 count. And then the Beaver Boys hit like a devastating combo of moves like German suplexes and elbows and high kicks and shit on Quinn, only gets a 2 count. But Private Party hits their Gin and Juice finisher on Silver for the 3 count and the victory. This was a damn good match, honestly. The Beaver Boys, even though they're part of Dark Order, I mean, they are severely underrated as a tag team. They really are. I gave this match 3.5 stars out of 5, and those were your 2 matches on the buy-in. Alright, so the opening match for AEW All Out 2020 was the tooth and nail match between Britt Baker and Big Swole. Of course, this was actually kind of big because since they were both in the top 5 in the rankings. I had a little bit of expectations for this match because this was taking place in the dentist's office. So there were some, I guess, Stadium Stampede-esque expectations for this match, but it just didn't deliver, unfortunately. Both starting in the dentist's office and wail on each other with different weapons and stuff like that. Like Baker trying to use her drill and all that good stuff. Baker hit a nice DDT and a swinging neck breaker for a 2 count. Swole hit a big pump kick for a 2 count. Baker hit her super kick and then tries to stick Swole with a syringe of Novocaine, but ends up sticking her own leg, which put her leg to sleep. Swole hit a Dirty Dancing. This was actually the funniest part of the match. She handed Reba, it looked like a diploma in this frame, and she hit the Dirty Dancing, her rolling elbow, which went through the damn frame, which I thought was pretty funny. And then she hit Dirty Dancing on Baker, and then used some anesthesia, an anesthesia mask, to put Britt to sleep to win the match. So, pretty underwhelming. Not at all what I expected, unfortunately. Could have been a lot better. So I gave this match 2 stars out of 5. The next match on the card was the tag team match between the Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks. Again, a top 5 match, because Jurassic Express was number 5 and the Young Bucks were number 3. This was definitely, I think, the best match of the first half of the show. We start with a great exchange between Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson. Jurassic Express hits a nice roundhouse Hertz donut on Matt. And if you don't know what the Hertz donut is, that's basically one of Johnny Gargano's finishers from NXT, where he basically picks his opponent up in like a full Nelson and then transitions it into like a flatliner type move. And they got 2 count out of that. Jungle Boy hits a slingshot Frankensteiner on Nick. Then Matt hits Locomotion Northern Lights suplexes on Jungle Boy. Nick super kicks Luchasaurus to prevent a tag from Jungle Boy. Luchasaurus with a nice back handspring out of a double lariat into a tail whip, a roundhouse, a double choke slam, and a moonsault on the Young Bucks for a 2 count. That was a nice combo. Jungle Boy with a diving splash and a Luchasaurus with a moonsault to the outside. Nick actually hit a slingshot destroyer on Luchasaurus, and it's like, how do they get that big man over? You know what I mean? And then Matt super kicks Marco Stunt. He actually got involved a little bit in the match earlier. So Matt decides, you know what? Fuck you, and just super kicks him. Young Bucks hit a Doomsday penalty kick on Jungle Boy. And then they hit their elevated Swanton Bomb on Jungle Boy for a 2 count. Jurassic Express hit their Extinction Level event, which is basically that inverted power bomb from Luchasaurus and a cutter from Jungle Boy. Only got a 2 count. Luchasaurus jumps onto the top rope and does a crossbody into the crowd. And it's like, good job on them to catch him. But Jungle Boy is basically left alone in the ring. He kicks out of the super kick party, but gets hit with the BTE trigger for the 3 count in the victory. So your winners are the Young Bucks, and you know they're heading towards that inevitable collision with FTR. So there's that. I gave this match 4 stars out of 5. And then we have the third match of the bunch, the Casino Battle Royal, the 21-man Casino Battle Royal. So the rules of this match, you know, pretty simple. 5 men start in the ring based on the card that they drew, the 4 suits in the deck, which in this case, we had the diamonds, the hearts, and I can't remember what the other one was. But basically the first group was Trent, Christopher Daniels, Jake Hager, The Blade, and Ray Phoenix. They are going to start in the ring, and then every 3 minutes the next group comes out. There are 3 more groups that come out based on the suit that they drew. And then there's the Joker card, which actually featured a huge surprise, but also one of the saddest botches in all of 2020. So to start out, Trent hit a step-up Tornado DDT on Phoenix. Hager hit a power slam on Daniels. Then the next group that came out was Frankie Kazarian, Will Hobbs, a jobber from Dark Shot, Chuck Taylor, and Proud and Powerful, both of them. And they were the Diamonds. PNP hit a double suplex on Chuck Taylor, so obviously that rivalry is continuing. Blade is eliminated by Will Hobbs. Daniels is eliminated by Hager. The next group to come out was Billy Gunn, Pentagon Jr., Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, and Darby Allin. So there's that little bit. Another rivalry that's been going on between them. Billy gets eliminated by Cage almost immediately. Darby eliminates Ray Phoenix. Proud and Powerful eliminates Chuck Taylor. And then the final group is Sean Spears, who walks over to the announce table Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, Sonny Kiss, and Lance Archer, who basically ran and threw himself into the ring. It really is amazing what that guy can do. Kiss eliminates Hager, who in turn gets eliminated by Brian Cage. Santana was going for, I think it was Trent, but eliminates himself from the match. Archer eliminates both Trent and Ortiz. I think he hit a boot or something on Trent, which knocked him out. Ortiz had ducked, and he was like, yeah, I'm smart. But then he turns around, and Archer knocks him off the apron to eliminate him. And then came the Joker, and who was it? It was Matt Sydal, the former Evan Bourne, the master of the Shooting Star Press. The entrance was pretty cool, and he actually hit like a nice lifting knee strike to Sean Spears on the stage. Went for his Shooting Star Press, and it looked like he was going for Will Hobbs, who was laying there ready for the spot. But man, his foot slipped on the top turnbuckle, and he basically came crashing down to the mat. I mean, he's extremely lucky that he didn't land on the top of his head or something of that nature. You know, and there were some people that were laughing at him for that little slip. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You know, that could have been a serious injury right there. And I feel bad for him because this was his big debut for AEW, and that happens. Now, to his credit, I mean, he took it in stride on Twitter, but still, he's going to live in infamy now with that botched entrance. Really sucks, man. Frankie Kazarian eliminates Pentagon, who's in turn eliminated by the Butcher. Cage hits a nice pump-handle driver on Sydal, an F5 on Spears, a Hangman neckbreaker on Hobbs, a flatliner on Butcher, a true flatliner on Butcher, a German suplex on Kingston, a discus lariat on Archer, and then he also accidentally hits Starks, which allows Darby Allin to hit a shoulder-wide stunner on Cage, and then he eliminates Starks. And then for some reason, there were fireworks going off outside the arena. I don't know what the hell was going on there, but that was interesting. And then Brian Cage hits a burning hammer on Darby Allin, which looked pretty devastating. And then I think Ricky Starks drags a body bag from out from underneath the ring. And then Cage pours thumbtacks into the body bag and puts Darby inside, zips it shut, and then he powerbombs Allin over the top rope and eliminates him on the stage. And the angle at which Allin fell was pretty severe. I mean, he almost landed on the top of his head from the looks of it. So hopefully he's not too seriously injured from that. Sydal hits a nice stomp while the two were on the outside to Spears to take him out of the match. Hobbs hits a nice spine buster on Sydal. Archer hits a pounce on Hobbs. And let's not forget that there's still thumbtacks laying in the ring. So Sydal actually got punctured by a few of those. Cage and Archer face off, which was a nice face off between the two. They were hitting a lot of big moves. And then Hobbs and Cage got knocked out onto the apron. They start fighting each other. And then Archer runs in and hits a double drop kick that knocks both of them off the apron and out of the match. Butcher hits a nice crossbody on Archer. Then Matt Sydal eliminates Butcher, hits a launching DDT on Kingston after he was launched in the air by, I think it was Archer. Archer hits a blackout on Sydal. And then you have Kingston. Yeah, Archer. Then we have just Archer, Sydal, and Kingston as the final three, and they were both basically out on the apron fighting each other. Sydal gets eliminated by Archer, I believe. And then Kingston and Archer are basically fighting on the apron. You had some of Kingston's guys trying to help him out, and you had Jake the Snake Roberts basically showing his snake. And Archer chokeslams Kingston to the outside onto his compatriots to win the Casino Battle Royal, which did kind of give away the main event a little bit. But, I mean, Lance Archer is now basically the #1 contender for the AEW World Championship, which in my opinion I think is the right move. I mean, he is the Murder Hawk Monster, and considering the matchup that we are going to be getting, I mean, that is pretty interesting, although, you know, there is also a really big what if that comes out of that, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But I gave the Casino Battle Royal 2.5 stars out of 5. Then, of course, we had the Broken Rules match between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. Of course, the potential for this one was really high. It was one of the most anticipated matches on the card, but as we talked about earlier, it ended in kind of a not so good fashion. It started out pretty good. I mean, Guevara tries to run Matt down with the golf cart, a la, the past couple of times that these two have fought. But it ends up missing. Hardy hits a nice DDT onto like a metal bench. Then they get onto the high rise, and of course they had a couple tables set up there. And Guevara spears Matt through the high rise, and they were supposed to land on the tables. But of course they overshot just a little wee bit, and Hardy ended up bouncing his head off the concrete, which knocked him out legitimately. So Doc Sampson stopped the match after Aubrey Edwards did the X thing, signifying that shit has gone tits up. But then they said that there must be a winner. So I guess after conversing a little bit, like I said before, they restarted the match and went to a quick finish. Guevara and Hardy climb up a scaffolding, and Guevara gets punched off onto a stage, kind of similar to what happened at Double or Nothing with the Stadium Stampede match. And Guevara isn't able to answer the 10 count, meaning that Matt Hardy was the winner of the match. Was it all worth it? Probably not. Like I said, I think they should have called us a no contest and then ran it back a little bit later. But hindsight is 20/20. So, but from the sound of it, Matt Hardy is doing a lot better today after being in hospital. They probably kept him overnight for observation, but from the looks of it, he is going to be fine, which is good. So I guess the best thing we can do at this point is just learn from this and move on. So there we go. I gave this match 2.5 stars out of 5 because obviously I mean I can't completely rag on it, but at the same time I can't give it a high score for obvious reasons. But then we get to the second half of the show, and this is when things really started to pick up. The next match was the AEW Women's World Championship match between Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. And I tell you what, after having to witness that and having basically a lot of people kind of just like fall out of the pay-per-view a little bit. By that I mean they kind of it's kind of hard to get back into it after a situation like that. But I tell you what, these two ladies, they put on one hell of a match. And this is the type of match we need to be seeing in the women's division, to be honest. So Rosa and Shida go toe-to-toe at the start. Shida hit a nice Frankensteiner. Rosa with a neck breaker for a 2 count. Shida hit a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Rosa intercepts Shida's chair jump, knee strike, and hit a drop kick. Rosa hits a Oklahoma Stampede and transitioned it into a backbreaker for a 2 count. Shida locks in a rear naked choke, but Rosa counters it into a pin for a 2 count. Rosa then locks in a Mexican surfboard, swinging Shida into the bottom turnbuckle, which I thought was kind of funny. Shida counters Rosa's roundhouse into a stretch muffler, which then Rosa counters into a tiaras. But then Shida hits her rising knee strike and a suplex for a 2 count. Rosa hits her flying corner lariat and a meteora, and then a low drop kick. Then the two kind of fight on the apron, and then on the top turnbuckle, with Rosa eventually hitting a Death Valley driver on the apron. Only got a 2 count though. Rosa locks in her chicken wing armbar submission that actually won her the NWA World Women's Championship back in January from Allison Kay, but Shida manages to get the rope break. Shida hits a nice superplex. The two fight once again to the stage, where Shida then hits a meteora, which looked nicely done. And then we had a nice little back and forth here, where Rosa hit a sick kick, basically a single leg drop kick. Shida hit a nice knee strike, Rosa with a German suplex, and then Shida with a Falcon Arrow. Only got a 1 count, which was interesting. And then Shida tries to lock in her full metal muffler, basically the stretch muffler, and also locking in the arms. It's a move that she actually debuted on Dark a little bit ago. Rosa hits a lung blower for a 2 count. Shida hits a fireman carry backbreaker for a 2 count, and then she hits her 3 count knee strike, Tamache, as Excalibur calls it, for the 3 count and the victory. One hell of a women's title match and everything that I thought it would be. And they've set the bar high now for the women's division. It's like, this is what the women's division should be about. So I gave this match 4 stars out of 5 as a result. The next match was a match that probably shouldn't have been on this card, honestly. It was an 8-man tag between the Dark Order versus the Natural Nightmares, Scorpio Sky and Matt Cardona. I mean, I don't think this should have been on the card, to be honest, but, you know, for what it was worth, it was still a good match. Both teams start by going completely at each other. QT hits a backbreaker flatliner on Grayson. And of course, this was after he had been worked over by the entirety of Dark Order. Cardona gets the hot tag and starts cleaning house. But Grayson hits a nice helo on Cardona for a 2 count. Dark Order hit their, and by Dark Order I mean Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, hit their tornado kick brainbuster combo on Cardona for a 2 count. Cardona hits a nice neckbreaker reversal on Uno. Dustin hits a nice destroyer on Colt Cabana. Brody hits a super kick on Dustin. Scorpio Sky gets a tag and hits a TKO on Stu Grayson, only gets a 2 count though. Cardona hits Radio Silence and a Tope Con Hero on both members of Dark Order, again Grayson and Uno. QT hits a Tope Con Hero to the outside himself. Dark Order hits some big time offense on QT, only got a 2 count though. Dustin and Brody face off, starts going at each other with punches and stuff. Brody hits the discus lariat on Dustin and tags Colton, who decides to try to go for a moonsault but misses, allowing Dustin to hit him with the most devastating move in all of professional wrestling, the surprise roll-up, or in this case the schoolboy, and gets the 3 count and the victory. And I gave this match 3.5 stars out of 5. Afterwards, Brody Lee basically gets mad at Colt Cabana and basically blames him for the loss. And Uno actually helps him up, considering that Uno has been the brunt of Lee's wrath himself a couple times. So that was pretty cool. And then backstage, Dustin Rhodes is interviewed by Tony Schiavone, and Dustin, looked like he was animated, excited for the victory. And then he was told that he was going to be getting a TNT Championship shot at Brody Lee on the Fallout show to All Out this coming Wednesday night. So, and he looked like he was, it's like, holy crap, man, had an opportunity in gold in a long time. So that was a pretty big deal for him. So actually quite a bit to look forward to this coming Wednesday night on Dynamite. Honestly, because of the fact that NXT is going to be on Tuesday night once again this week, and considering that this is the Fallout show, there is a strong possibility that this week's edition of Dynamite could crack the 1 million mark for the first time since the beginning of the show's induction last year. So, be interesting to see if that happens. And then we get to the AEW World Tag Team Championship match between the Omega Cowboys, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, against the number 1 ranked FTR. And evidently they inherited some of the time that was reserved for the Broken Rules match, because this match actually went pretty long. It actually went almost half an hour, this match did. So they actually gave Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa 17 minutes. So, damn, that's pretty good. But this match went almost half an hour. So, quite the long match this was, but it was a damn good one. So we start out with some dissension between Page and Omega, but then they hit big boots to FTR. Great isolation wrestling by FTR and Page for a lot of this. Omega hits a nice Frankensteiner on Darwood, and then a drop kick anti-air on Cash, which looked nice. And then he hits the Terminator Tope on both members of FTR on the outside. FTR comes back with a powerbomb German suplex combo on Omega for a 2 count. And then Omega Cowboys hit their elevated German suplex on Dax, and then a powerbomb knee strike combo on Cash for a 2 count. And then FTR hit a nice superplex flying splash combo on Omega for a 2 count. Dax hit a nice brainbuster on Omega. Page hit a sliding lariat on Dax. Cash hit a step-up tornado DDT on Page. And then Omega hit a Poison Frankensteiner and Tiger Driver 98 on Cash for a 2 count. So it kind of went around the world in that sense. Omega hit a nice V-trigger on Cash Wheeler. Dax then locked in an inverted figure 4 leg lock on Omega, since Omega went for a V-trigger but actually hit the top turnbuckle. So they started using that as a focal point. Omega hit Snapdragon suplexes on both members of FTR and got the hot tag to Hangman, who started cleaning house. He hit a nice fall-away slam, Pescado Swanton Bomb combo on FTR. He was eventually going up for the Arihara moonsault, but they moved out of the way, but not quickly enough because Page adjusted and hit a Swanton Bomb instead. Then FTR hit twin diving headbutts on Page for a 2 count. And then they hit a nice inverted powerbomb bulldog combo on Omega on the outside. And then a Steiner Bulldog on Page on the inside for a 2 count. Page hit a nice avalanche blockbuster suplex off the top rope on Cash, only got a 2 count. Then the Omega Cowboys went for their last call finisher. But Omega misses the V trigger and ends up hitting Page instead. So there's the inevitable hit that's probably going to cause the breakup between these two. The FTR hits their Mind Breaker, which is the spike pile driver on Page. Only got a 2 count, but then they hit the Mind Breaker again, and they keep Omega out of the ring to get the 3 count in the victory. So your new AEW World Tag Team Champions are FTR, which makes sense, you know, because Omega and Page, they were the champions for 7.5 months. I mean, that's quite the long reign. And then afterwards, Omega had grabbed, looked like some kind of fold-up table, and it looked like he was going to hit Page with it. But at one point, Page actually tried to get to his feet and then collapsed at Omega's feet. And Omega said, no, it's not worth it. So he threw the table away, and he basically stormed out of the arena with the Bucks in tow. And he's basically like, and here's the thing that as he was walking towards his ride, right before he drove away, he said something to the effect that we got some cleaning to do for too long. And it's like, oh, you hear that? The cleaner may be coming back. So there's that. And kind of left the Bucks at the entrance, basically out in the parking lot, kind of wondering what's going to happen from here. So they're definitely teasing that Omega heel turn for sure. But this was one damn good match and a championship match, a tag team championship match that I wholeheartedly expected to be a great one, and indeed it was. So great, in fact, I'm giving it the full 5 stars out of 5. Good job. And then the next match was the Mimosa Mayhem match between Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy. A bit ridiculous, but you know what? This was actually still pretty good. Jericho started out with a code breaker right off the bat, got a 2 count. Jericho shatters a plastic tray over Orange's head. This was no disqualifications. Basically, this was for all intents and purposes a hardcore match for the most part, with 3 ways to win: pinfall, submission, or knocking your opponent into a vat of mimosa, which was they had 2 tubs on either side of the ring. They were tight roping around them for quite a bit. Orange hit a nice flying crossbody on Jericho. Like I said, both were teetering on the edge of the tanks. Jericho hits a powerbomb. Looked like he was going to powerbomb him through into one of the tanks, but then powerbombs them onto a table. Orange hits a nice super kick. And then a Mochinoku driver for a 2 count after teetering at the edge of the tank. He hits his Stun Dog Millionaire. Jericho is able to lock in the walls of Jericho, but Orange actually grabs one of the plastic cups, dunks it and gets some mimosa and actually splashes it into Jericho's face. He hits his Orange Punch, which nearly sends Jericho into the tank, but he holds on. Orange hits a nice avalanche Frankensteiner and then hits a satellite DDT for a 2 count. Jericho hit a nice anti-air code breaker for a 2 count, and then they were back over at the turnbuckle yet again, trying to knock each other into the mimosa tank. And then Orange hits 2 more Orange punches and knocks Jericho into the mimosa tank to get the victory, his second consecutive victory over Jericho. So I think we can call this rivalry done and dusted between Jericho and Orange Cassidy, with Orange getting the upper hand 2 matches to 1. And I think this was a much better ending than the second match they had, where they botched a couple of things. This was a lot better. And as a result, I gave this match 4 stars out of 5. Nice little gimmick match. And then we get our main event, the AEW World Championship match between Jon Moxley and MJF. And of course, Moxley's paradigm shift was banned. If he used it, then he would lose the title. And there were a couple instances where he looked like he was going to go for it, but the referee was like, no, you can't go for it, remember? So there's that. But MJF started out with some good basic wrestling. Mox hit a tope suicida and then an atomic drop on the railing, which looked like it hurt. Both started countering potential finishers. They were going for each other's finishers. MJF slams Mox's left arm onto the apron. It looked like it was pretty nasty. And then MJF hit a vicious arm whip into the corner for a 2 count. Mox catapults MJF into the ring post, which busts MJF wide open. Technically speaking, of course, he bladed. But Mox looked like he was going to go for a paradigm shift at first, but then hit an X-Plex when he remembered that he couldn't and got a 2 count. They go to the outside. Moxley hits a black hole slam. They go back inside the ring, and Moxley hits a nice Gotch-style pile driver, the cradle pile driver. Only got a 2 count, though. MJF hits a nice double stomp on the left arm and hits a nice German suplex lariat combo for a 2 count. Moxley looked like he was, MJF was actually on his knees, and he spit in Moxley's face. And it got Moxley so pissed they wanted to go for the paradigm shift, but the referee was telling them no. And MJF used that opportunity to counter into the salt of the earth Fujiwara armbar, but Moxley gets the ropes. MJF hits a heat seeker, only gets a 2 count. Moxley hits a nice air raid crash for a 2 count, which I don't think I've ever seen him use that move before. MJF start going toe-to-toe with each other on their knees, hitting each other with slaps, punches, elbows, headbutts, you name it. Moxley locks in a sleeper hold, but MJF hits a mule kick for a 2 count. Hits a double cross for a 2 count. And then Wardlow tries to distract the referee, throws the Dynamite Diamond ring into the ring. Say that 5 times fast. But MJF lost it for a second, found it, but then Moxley noticed that the referee's back was turned, so he hits the paradigm shift, or in this case the Death Rider, which was the elevated paradigm shift, while the referee's back was turned, and got the 3 count and the victory. Of course, this is probably going to lead to MJF bitching and complaining that he used the paradigm shift to win the match, which sets up the confrontation between Lance Archer and Jon Moxley. And of course, these two faced off against each other in New Japan Pro Wrestling when they were battling for the IWGP United States Championship, and they about killed each other. So we're going to see that. But the opportunity, an opportunity was lost here, I think, to keep MJF undefeated and have him win the World Championship, have a long title reign, and then have a big-time babyface beat him for the title, So they're going to have to build him back up at some point. But, I mean, MJF has a lot of time ahead of him, I think. He's only 24 years old, so I think there'll still be plenty of opportunities for him to get into that role. So it isn't the end of the world. But this was still a damn good match. I mean, 2 contrasting styles, and they put out one hell of a main event. And it was honestly what this show needed, to be honest. So I gave this match, much like the tag team title match, I gave this match the full 5 stars out of 5. It was that good of a match, and I would recommend going back and watching it. And that was AEW All Out for 2020. So, was it the best show in the world? No. I mean, there were some things that happened on the show that definitely made you draw up, for sure. I mean, there's some things that AEW could have done differently. But was this, the worst thing of all time? Fuck no. I mean, come on. Let's use some common sense here, people. I mean, the first half of the show, you could say it was just kind of but it really picked up in the second half, and you want to really end the show on with a bang, and that's exactly what this show did. So it's not going to be a super high rating, but my final rating for AEW All Out for 2020 will be a 7.5 out of 10. Could have been better. So in that case, it was a bit of a disappointment. But I mean, that's how high of a bar that AEW has set for themselves, because we're so used to seeing just banger pay-per-views, from them ever since they came into existence, and this one you could probably say was not up to their standards, which shows how high their fucking standards are. But that's gonna do it for this review of AEW All Out 2020. And with that out of the way, here are my updated rankings, which, considering everything that's gone on this week, we had 2 episodes of Dark, an episode of Dynamite, and All Out. So, and I also decided to get rid of the Trios rankings, because without Trios championships at the moment, who fucking cares, But, all 3 divisions have taken quite the shuffle. So, the rankings are probably going to look vastly different from what you've seen in previous weeks. But that's going to do it for today's edition of All Elite Review, our second edition, since we had the pay-per-view. Next time is the Fallout show, and we'll see what happens then. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman, signing out. See you later. You better like and subscribe or face the consequences. You have been warned.